You're listening to the Murphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning into the Murphology Podcast, aka Murph here, to share interviews about biking experiences from cyclists who have pedaled to places all over. Each week, we will get to know new people and explore new destinations to ride your bike. As you listen to these adventures, you may wonder, why haven't I done that yet? Well, today marks the 50th episode of the Murphology Podcast. 50. I did a bit of reflecting on all the people I've met and interviewed, and I'm amazed at the quality of conversation in each episode. It really is true that no matter who you meet, every person has a good story to share. Each interview gave me inspiration to try something new or revisit something I hadn't thought of for a while, and definitely added to my growing list of places to visit. With almost 10,000 listens, I'm so thankful for each and every listener who takes the time to tune in. Well, this week I had my very first guest back on the show. Dana Fortier was on to talk about adventures she's been on, and she ended up turning the tables on me and had some questions to ask me, which was pretty fun. Enjoy. All right, well, welcome to episode 50, the big 50. What do you think of that?
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, so with me today is Dana Fortier, and you are with me today. Well, because you want to, right? This is not against your will.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah, but you were episode 1.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy. That was a year ago.
So 50 episodes ago. Yeah, a whole year ago, we did our first episode in your RV with the air conditioning super loud in the background.
In my backyard.
In your backyard. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So listeners, we are currently at one of our favorite drinking establishments. So you may hear some background noise. We're here at lunchtime, so it's not super busy, but we'll see if it's loud.
Yeah.
If it is, I'm sorry. It is what it is.
Parties do start on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock.
Perfect, yeah. So anyway, you were episode number 1, and during that episode, we talked mostly about bike touring, because that's how I started this podcast, was to talk about cycling for beginners and specifically on touring. Obviously, I have changed throughout those 50 episodes, but do you even remember us sitting in the RV and talking?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Vaguely. We were planning all of our upcoming trips, so we were very excited to do some bike packing together.
Yeah, and I want to bring it up in a little bit, or maybe we can just bring it up now. I was going to say some of the adventures, but that specific adventure we were planning for was bagging out to RAGBRAI, which I'm sure listeners know that 2020 RAGBRAI was changed to a virtual event because of COVID. But last year at this time, we were getting ready to put all of our crap on our bikes and pedal from Cedar Rapids to RAGBRAI and then do RAGBRAI.
Yep, and I believe at the time I was debating with you about what to pack and what not to pack.
Yeah, I think we both have a little bit of a problem with too much crap in our bags.
Oh, yeah, every time.
I would like to say that you have more of a problem,
absolutely.
But I don't think that's true. I really do think that we both have problems. So, okay, so since episode 1, have you been on any adventures that, I know it's been a whole year, but any adventures that you want to briefly talk about?
Yeah, we went on, last fall, we went on a bagging trip to LaPorte City. We started in Cedar Rapids, and let's see, what did we do? We went from here to Urbana, to Brandon, and then ended up in LaPorte City, and we stayed there at a city park, and I stayed in a hammock with my hubby, and it was a nice night. And
we were there, it was a pretty small group, but the nice thing about that adventure was it was on the Cedar Valley Nature Trail, which from Cedar Rapids to LaPorte City, it goes from pavement to crushed limestone to kind of dirt. Yep. A little bit of gravel, a little bit of sand. Yep. But
that was a little difficult on the legs. I remember I was pretty sore the next day from biking on that.
Yeah, I always think that when you're on rails to trails type trails, because you never stop pedaling, because it's just always a constant do. So,
you can't ever glide.
Yeah. that LaPorte City ride was pretty fun, and I'm hoping that we can bring it back again this year. Again, depending on COVID and if it, if it feels safe and if it's right. But if Dan Bullard's listening, he kind of is the guy that leads that. So come on, Dan, let's get that on the schedule. Any other adventures you recall?
Well, we did Ragbri.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes.
And that, okay, so first episode we recorded in your RV, which you named Edith.
Yes.
And it had air conditioning, which was awesome. So we did have Edith a few days on Ragbri last year, if I remember right.
Yeah, that was a treat. I've never been on a Ragbri with some place that has air conditioning, so that was pretty sweet.
And a shower.
Yeah, it did have a shower. Yeah.
There's
and it had food. We had a cooler that had food in it ready for us too. That was all pretty nice.
You had like solar power to have an air conditioning.
Yeah, and we had a table we could play Uno at.
That's right. Yes, I've talked about that many times on touring. That's my special item that I keep in my bags, and I know you do too.
Yes. And then we also bagged out in Illinois. We went to Savannah.
Oh gosh, that's right.
Yeah, we did that Great River Trail, which is a gorgeous trail.
Yes.
It was really well maintained, and that was enjoyable. We didn't, as we were both adventuring, and you guys hadn't been there yet before, so it was a fun trip out there. And then we ended up just staying in Savannah, which is always a very interesting place.
Yeah. So two things that come to mind with that trip was your husband had been there before, and he found cactus that grows in Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, cactus, real cactus.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is we spent some time in LeClaire, which is the home of American Pickers.
Oh, that's right. That's where we went. That's what I was thinking of. That had the iron horse bar.
Yes. They have like a huge horse that you can sit on.
It's made of iron.
I was going to say it's not real. It's made of iron. And I believe we all did that, whether or not it was at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it wasn't the best decision, but we lived to tell about it.
We did.
So I hate bringing up COVID because I'm hoping that, 3 years from now, nobody will even remember what that word means.
That would be nice.
It would be nice. But any changes to how you cycle now? Let's just say it, now that COVID's ruined everything.
Yeah, it truly has. We hadn't planned on going to 2020 Ragbri anyhow, so that didn't really affect us too much. We had planned actually to go to Canada, to go to a music festival, and then we were going to go up to Banff National Park.
Oh, nice.
And actually that got canceled, so that sucked. For bike rides, I have noticed that we have been avoiding the large group rides, which obviously aren't really happening anyway. But we're going to like bar stops. If we're anything, we're bringing some beers with us and maybe stopping on the way. And we have been really trying hard to not use trails because they're so heavily traveled. So we've been taking a lot of trips on roads that are somewhat safe or have a shoulder. So I actually love riding on roads anyway, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, and actually at the heart, when COVID really kicked in and everyone was seriously sheltering in place, the roads were awesome because there was no traffic.
Exactly.
Like, it was crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any cycling trips that are on your horizon?
Yep. So that Ragbri, even though the actual Ragbri was canceled or postponed, they're still doing a fall ride. So it's going to be October 2nd to 4th. And I don't think we quite know a lot of information about it just yet.
I agree.
Yeah. But we're definitely doing that. We're going to bring along Edith again and see how she does.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And I believe it's in Iowa Falls, but if people are listening to this and wondering about it, you can go to ragbri.com and find out details.
So Kathy, this is your 50th podcast.
Can you believe it?
That is crazy to me. Yeah. So, thank you for inviting me back for your 50th.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of your listeners have enjoyed learning about so many things about biking, bike packing, but I also think that it's time to turn the tables a little bit.
Whoa.
I know. It's kind of weird to be on the other side, but I think that everybody here would like to know more about what kind of biking you do, what brought you to biking, what changes you have seen over the last year.
Okay.
So I thought I would just throw you a few questions.
So is this a podcast takeover?
It is a little bit. You down?
Okay, I'm down. All right.
Okay.
I may not be prepared though, so if I stumble, we can just edit
you can
that out.
edit it. Yeah, you have the power.
Okay, all right, go for it. What do you have?
So we already talked about how we were in our RV or my RV in the backyard, listening, or doing the first podcast. So now we are in, a lovely place that we frequent. We're drinking, having a lovely beverage with us.
Yes, we are.
What other changes have happened over the last 50 episodes, Kathy Murphy?
Oh my. Well, like I mentioned at the beginning, the podcast was specifically about bike touring, but I quickly realized that there are so many cyclists that don't tour. So I just made it more about biking adventures and biking experiences rather than specifically about touring. And I'm so glad I did, because I have met so many great people, and like Marty, my other half, and I are going on some adventures this fall. And there are literally people that I've podcast with that are like, all right, when you come our way, you need to stop. We're going to go for a bike ride. We're going to show you around our community. And it also has changed like my bucket list, because now instead of me like, I want to do RAGBRAI every year, now I'm like, oh my God, there's so much going on in the world that I didn't know about until having this podcast and talking to people.
That's awesome.
So it's been such a great process. And I have to give a shout out to, I used to work for the Iowa Bicycle Coalition, and Mr. Mark Wyatt. When I was working there, he had a podcast with the RAGBRAI director called Just Go Bike. And somehow he finagled me into doing it. And at first I was like, no way, I can't. Nope, I'm going to be embarrassed. It's not going to work. And it went from being embarrassed, it's not going to work, to participating almost every week on that podcast. Well, it fizzled out when there were some weird things that happened with RAGBRAI. And I have to give a shout out to him to thank him for letting me do that and be on there. So thank you, Mr. Mark Wyatt.
Yes, thank you.
And I will fast forward to today. That podcast is back. So justgobike.net is back, and I do contribute. So I'm still on there. Every 5 or 6 weeks, I get to do an interview. So it's pretty fun. And I still get to, hang out with Mr. Mark Wyatt. So that's pretty sweet.
Has there been any funny moments during the podcast?
Oh, let's see. Funny moments. Well, I know when I interviewed Heather Hull, we were talking about triathlon. I don't even remember what the topic was, but we had like a crazy laughing attack where neither one of us could breathe, and whatever we were talking about was valid. So then we had to redo it again, and we couldn't stop. It was kind of like, a blooper reel where you're like, okay, deep breath. Like, are we going to get through this or not? So I don't know if I still have it somewhere. I probably should bring it to make it a blooper reel.
Yeah, maybe you do need a podcast blooper reel for your 100th or 75th or something.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, that's probably one of the funny moments.
I like it. Yeah, what about, you have any proud moments? I mean, you've interviewed some pretty amazing people over the past 49 episodes.
Yeah, well, 50th, including you.
Oh, yes, of course.
Well, I know, for example, Rich Keitel, which maybe episode 35 or 36 he's on. I interview him, and he talks about his dog Bogey. But he said that because of being on the podcast, that inspired him to do an epic adventure himself. So I love that when people will give me a shout out and say, hey, it reminded me of this passion I have, or this thing that I do, and then they move forward and do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
What about anything happen that made you say, oh, crap, I'm gonna have to edit that out?
Oh my gosh, I am sorry that I have to bring up negative things about my dog, but sweet Gracie, she's 14, she's an old lady. I don't know what that is in dog years, like 90 something. So, but she always has to be underfoot. So she's always, when I'm recording at home in my podcast studio, in world headquarters of Murphology Podcast Studios, she's right there. So it'll get to a great point when I'm interviewing somebody, and she'll like start hacking or coughing or sneezing, or like walking by on the tile, and I'll hear her nails clipping. I'll be like, Jesus criminy, come on, dog. And I feel silly saying, oh, can you say that again? Because my dog just coughed. So now if you guys listen to previous episodes, there'll be times when you hear a weird noise in the background, and it's actually my dog. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And actually, there was one time that my SD card, the one that records it, ran out.
Oh, no.
So,
did you know?
Well, I think I missed maybe a couple minutes, and I looked down, and I'm like, oh, crap, it's not recording. So then I'm like, I'm sorry, whoever you are. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I'm sorry, can we redo? And, it's like, it's organic when we're just talking, and it's weird when you have to like start over and re-say the question. So, but hopefully you listeners have no idea that even happened.
Yeah. Any other things that you can think of the last year?
Well, I mean, I have like favorite episodes.
What's that?
A lot of the episodes with inspirational women have a soft spot in my heart. Like way back in the beginning, I think it was episode 7, Kaylee Kornhauser did an episode about body image and about cycling.
Yeah.
It was really, really well done. She was such a good speaker. And then on top of it, she talked about bike packing, and it kind of changed the way I thought about things, is that, you know, when I go touring, I have at least like 70 pounds of crap on my bike. And then she is bike touring for a week straight, and she just has a couple of bags on her bike and she makes it work. I'm like, dang, that's awesome.
She probably wears the same skirt multiple days.
Right. And I'm trying to learn to do the same thing. But besides that, there was a lady, Lee, and she took her son, Oakley, and they went across the United States. And it was kind of a time for her to really get to understand him as a teenager. I thought that was really good. That was episode 16.
Yeah, because you really get to know somebody very well when you're packing together.
Yeah.
And they see everything.
And it's her son, right? So they're like, you know, tenting together and they're hanging out together. And anyway, that was a really good episode. And then I have to do a shout out to Larry Ritland. He's a veteran that also rode across the United States, but his passion was going to American Legions.
Oh.
And it was really cool. Like, he ended up doing it by himself. I think his wife was his support vehicle, but gosh, it was great. And at the very end, I think it was the day before he was done, he fell and broke ribs.
Oh, no.
And still finished.
Oh, wow.
Like, he got to the end, and his family, his daughters were there waiting for him. And I don't think he knew he had broke ribs, but he was definitely like, couldn't take a deep breath.
Oh,
and
that'd be so painful.
You know, there's pictures of him with his, you know, bike over his head. And I'm like, how did you do that? It's like, oh my gosh.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And then, I have a lot of episodes that are my favorite. I should probably say all of them are my favorite, because anybody listening right now is like,
especially number 1 and number 50.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But there was an episode I did where I interviewed my brother.
Oh, yeah.
Just about biking. And he's like, do you mind if I tell a story? I'm like, what? How come I never knew that story? So that was pretty good.
That's cool.
So, yeah. And then Kristen Heath, I can't remember which episode she is, but she's the one that got me motivated to get into mountain biking, because she is a badass. Well, now that we're talking about badasses, Reese Ruland, who is episode 49, she is also a badass. She does gravel cycling, gravel racing, and oh my gosh, I want to be like those women.
That's so cool.
But without as much effort. Is that possible?
Yeah, no. But speaking of mountain biking, that gives a good segue into me asking about your brand spanking new pretty bike.
A quick interruption to tell you this week's podcast is sponsored by Lizard Lips Lip Balm. These great lip balms contain natural ingredients, come in a variety of flavors, and you can choose certified organic or balms with sun protection. Check it out at lizardlips.net. Now back to the show. Yes. So, yeah, I went from bike touring and deeply, madly in love with my Gunner, which is a custom touring bike from Waterford, Wisconsin. And I have 2 Gunners, actually. Steel, love them, amazing. And then Steel is real. Hashtag Steel is real.
Hashtag no disc brakes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they're old enough that they don't have disc brakes. And Dana has been with me enough times where I'm going down a hill like, everyone needs to pass me because my brakes don't work very well. Anyway, so fast forward to 2020, and I got my first mountain bike because Marty and I are doing an event in September, hopefully. Cross your fingers that still happens. Yeah. And I needed a mountain bike. So I went from, I just need just a general mountain bike, to interviewing some of these amazing ladies, to thinking, all right, I'm going to be in the mountains of Colorado and Utah. I can't have a beginner bike. I just can't. So I wanted a full suspension, and I wanted it to be pretty. Like, most of my bikes have pink or pink accents. And I'm going to tell you, listeners, it's my first bike that does not have pink on it.
Yeah, it was a little shocking to see it wasn't bright pink.
And when I ride it, people don't know what to think of me, because they're like, what bike is that? So anyway, I ended up getting a Cannondale Scalpel SI, which is all carbon. It has full suspension. It has a lefty fork, which I'm sure people who really understand that are like, wow or why, but it's just one fork, and it works pretty cool. It's a 27.5 and it's tubeless tires, which is also pretty cool, and something that I'm a little bit nervous about, but it sounds like it's just the way to go at this point when you're going to be doing the terrain that we're doing. And it has a dropper post, so if I'm getting all crazy doing jumps and stuff, which no, I'm not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe I will, I don't know. But you can, on the fly, push, make your seat go down or make it go back up.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but most important, no pink. But I've been having so much fun learning how to be a mountain biker.
Yeah, I know. I've enjoyed you developing into one too. It's been cool to see.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll figure out a way to add some pink accents somehow.
Maybe it's, it might have to just be my clothing will be pink.
Okay.
I don't know. Because it's gray and like this metallic blue with like a safety yellow coming through it. So pink doesn't seem to fit, but I don't know. Don't count me out. I should also give a little bit of love. I got my first gravel bike this year too.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Which is a Liv Comax Invite, and Liv is the female version of Giant. So also tubeless and also super lightweight, but it does have a few pink accents in it. So
of course it does.
Yeah. So I feel bad I don't ride my Gunner as much.
She misses you.
She's still my first love.
Yeah. Do you have any upcoming cycling trips? I know we've talked about a few coming up, but I think your listeners would like to know.
Yeah. Well, the big one that I mentioned but didn't really get specific is the San Juan Huts. And it's basically a bike packing adventure. Starts in Telluride, Colorado, goes to Moab, Utah, with 0 stops in any towns or cities. So it's all within the mountains. The nice thing is that we're staying at huts every night. They don't have electricity or running water, but they are fully stocked with food. But we have to carry all of our own gear as far as clothing, sleep gear. So high elevation, so it'll be interesting adapting to all that. And I'm pretty excited to figure out how, of course, with a full suspension bike, there's not very much room to put bags like inside the frame, at least for this bike that I have. So it's going to be interesting to figure out how to, like your message before when you said, wearing the same skirt more than one day. I'm going to have to, because there's no way I can put 7 days worth of outfits plus camping gear plus water, because there's no place to get that kind of stuff onto a small frame bike. So, but I'm excited for the challenge.
It'll be a minimal packing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah. Besides that, I'm going to do the LaPorte City trip with you. Yeah. And also the fall Ragbri trip, which will be amazing.
It will be super fun.
And then I'm trying to plan a trip to do the trails in Wisconsin. It's called the Elroy Sparta Trail.
Yeah, we talked about that briefly.
Yeah, we're going to do that in October. So I need to figure out first, there were a couple bridges out, so I have to figure that out.
Very cool, Kathy Murphy.
Well, and besides those adventures, I'm hoping for more. But, again, it's going to come back down to the future of our country as far as COVID goes, and just being safe and being mindful of people around you is pretty important. So
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, how about that for you switching it up? And
did you enjoy that?
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I guess, to wrap things up, thank you for being on episode 50.
Oh, you're very welcome. Congratulations on being here at 50. I know I have enjoyed your podcast all year.
Oh, very good. Yeah. So can we count on you to be back for episode 100?
Oh, goodness, yes. Is that going to be a year from now?
Yeah, hopefully there won't be a pandemic going on and we can have a party in person maybe.
Yes, we can have a serious party.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, Dana.
Thank you for having me, Kathy.
Well, that's it for this week. Thank you, Dana, for coming back to share memories and record episode 50 with me. I'm really looking forward to the future of the Murphology Podcast and hope you'll continue to tune in when you can. Of course, if you have a topic or the name of a cyclist you find interesting, email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com. You can go to murphologypodcast.com to find good info, and I launched a YouTube channel, so if you want to see videos of some of the places I bike, check that out. I'll leave you with this quote from the Unwritten Book of Murphology. This quote comes from Brandon Murphy, no relation, I don't think. His quote, "Love because you want to, not because you have to. Think about it."